Hello and welcome to a new episode of Fictional Ship Versus. Today we will be going with the Germans versus the Japanese. For the German ship, we will be using the L class of battleship, specifically the L20e version. If you do not know, the L series of battleship is a series of 5 different types of battleships, all of similar designs, designed in 1918. For the Japanese, we are using a battlecruiser. We will be using the Amagi class of battlecruiser, where one of them was transferred into a carrier. I was thinking about using the Tosa, but the Amagi was a better choice. Let's get a little into the ship's specifications. So, I've decided to go with something new. We will do a comparison first. So, we will be comparing the L20e class of battleship and the Amagi class of battlecruiser. In the end of this comparison, I will say who I think will win in the end. Now, for starters, we will talk about their main guns. Now, the main gun of the L20 class of battleship is 42 centimeters. There are 4 turrets with 2 guns in each turret. For the Amagi, it is 41 centimeter guns with 5 turrets with 2 guns in each turret. For secondary guns, the L class of battleship has 12 15 centimeter guns and 8 10.5 centimeter guns, whilst the Amagi has 16 4 centimeter guns and 6 12 centimeter guns. For torpedoes, the L class battleship has 3 60 or 70 centimeter torpedoes, whilst the Japanese has 8 61 centimeter torpedoes. Next up, we have to compare their belt armor, or just their armor in general. The L20 class of battleship has a 350 millimeter belt, 250 millimeter bulkhead, and 350 millimeter barbette, whilst the Amagi has 250 millimeter belt, 73 millimeter bulkhead, and 280 millimeter barbette. The top speed, however, of the L20 is 26, whilst the Amagi has 30 knots, meaning that the Amagi can outrun the L class of battleship. The weight is also on the L20's hefty class because the L20 is 48,700 tons, whilst the Amagi is 47,000 tons. Now, in my opinion, who do I think will win? Personally, I believe that the Amagi would win. In my opinion, it is a better ship. It is more fleshed out. Even though it has a 1 centimeter difference with its guns, I think the 41 centimeter guns can still penetrate the L class of battleship. Second off is its torpedoes. When it gets close up into battleships, I believe that it can use its torpedoes to penetrate the bulkhead. Now, I know that the Amagi does not have a lot of armor to speak of, but what it does lack in armor, it has in speed, which is what makes cruisers a viable threat. Now, let us talk a little bit more about these ships whilst we showcase them a little bit. We will be starting with the L class of battleship. The L class of battleship first got its unofficial mention by Reinhard Scheer and Kaiser Wilhelm II in 1916. They called for what is referred to as the Einheitsschiff, or the unified ship, that combined the armor and firepower of battleships and the high speeds of battlecruisers. The objective was to have a ship that was 50,000 metric tons, 42 centimeter guns, and to have been designed by 1916, with approval to build them in 1918. If you know why these weren't built, World War I, the Germans were losing, they needed the steel for guns, and were building tanks, so they couldn't build this ship. By the end of 1916, there were 6 design projects that came out. The L20B, L21A, L22C, L20E, L24, and L24EA. Each of these had a very different style. The L20B and the L21 were very similar. They were going to be based on the same ship. One of them was to have 42 centimeter guns, the other 38 centimeters. The L22C was 41,700 tons with 38 centimeter guns. The L20E, the L24, and the L24EA all had 42 centimeter guns, but ranged from 42,000 tons and 45,000 tons. Though the objective of the ship was to reach 32 knots, None of these ships could, design-wise, match that speed. They could go at max 27.5 knots, and at slowest 22.5 knots. The lengths of these ships also varied from 235 meters to 240 meters, but all of them had a draft of 9 meters. The ship that we have here is the L20e A class of battleship, which is the alpha version or the base version. We will not be doing the L24EA, but the L20EA. All of these ships were initially supposed to have 42 centimeter guns, have an armor belt of 350 millimeters, and a cruising speed of 32 knots. After the success of the Bayan, the 42 centimeter guns were soon considered a secondary, and a focus on the armor went up. So they could put either 38 centimeter guns or 40 centimeter guns on there. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Amagi class of battle cruiser. Unlike the L class of battleship, the Amagi class of battle cruiser was actually built. This was meant to be a part of the 8-8 fleet, which was the Japanese naval strategy during the 20th century, to include 8 first-class battleships and 8 armored cruisers or battle cruisers. The armored cruisers turned out to be battle cruisers with the Congo, and now supposed to be the Amagi. So, if these ships actually were built, why were we not talking about them during our World War II lessons? Because the ships were transformed into something else. There were 4 ships that were initially wanted to be built: the Amagi, the Akagi, the Atago, and the Taiko. Takeo, or one of those two. Now, if you know your carrier history, the Akagi is one of the main carriers in World War II. That was one of the carriers that took place in Pearl Harbor. The Akagi was the only ship of the class that survived from its initial construction to being a carrier. The Amagi was a little further into development than the Akagi, but if you want to know what happened to it, an earthquake happened. The 1923 Great Kanto earthquake happened, which caused the whole of the ship to be massively and utterly destroyed. The ships were initially laid down in 1917 to be produced as alongside the Fuso class and the Congo class, because the Congo class was supposed to be past its replacement age. Then the Congo class was modernized when the Amagi was then canceled because of the 1922 Washington Naval Treaty, which restricted the weight of the ship. And the weight of the ships at the time were so high that they had to be scrapped or converted into something else. So the Japanese, instead of scrapping the whole hull, decided to convert it into an aircraft carrier. Anyways, that's about it for the Amagi class of battle cruiser. Let's get right into the battle. At the end of round 1, I realized that the Amagi did a lot better than I thought against the L20e A-class battleship, so I was looking into round 2 with high hopes, thinking that the Amagi would win. At the end of round 2, I was quite irritated because the Amagi did not do as well as I thought in the longer ranges. So I'm looking over to 20,000 meters thinking that the Amagi might lose this one. Well, the Amagi lost. I shouldn't be surprised, but I am. I thought that the Amagi would beat the L20e, but it didn't. But hey, that's a very good introduction to the battle cruisers being added to this fictional ship versus series. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Next video, we will be taking out the Germans, and instead, we will be putting in the Americans. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.